already does it, or as you know me, Rashid. Thanks for being here to another live. Again, I'll start at 4 minutes. So if you come in, let me know in the live chat you're here. Thank you very much. This is going to be an audio live, so I won't be showing anything on any screen or on the whiteboard. And if you're in traffic, especially when you're driving, please pay attention to the roads, to your surroundings. Thank you very much. If you're not in traffic, you're in a safe place, please put it on speaker, or especially if you're listening with multiple people, or just put your earphones in, or headphones on, or earpods in. Thank you very much. Again, I'll start at 4 minutes. When you're here, let me know in the live chat, please. Thank you very much. Oh, I see one thumbs up. Thank you, thank you. Thanks for the thumbs up. All right, class has begun. Thanks for the 2 thumbs up. Again, when you're here, let me know in the live chat. Thank you very much. This live stream is about the topic regret. Now, what is regret? Well, let me explain. Regret is when you choose. So, regret is not something that just happens to you out of the blue. Regret is when you choose a course of action with an expected outcome in mind, but then the expected outcome you were longing for doesn't happen. That's disappointment. Now, I thought you want to explain regret or shit. Okay, hold on. I'll explain to you. Disappointment is when you expect something good to happen or something to go your way, but it doesn't go your way. That's disappointment. Regret is when you refuse to deal with the disappointment. That's regret. For example, let's say I want to drive towards the beach. I get into my car and I drive towards the beach. My expectation is I'll get to my car, I drive towards the beach, I arrive there and I have a good time. That's the expectation I have. And with this expectation, I go into my car and I drive over there. But let's say now that on my way towards the beach, there is a traffic jam. And now I end up stuck for 3 hours in traffic. So when I arrive at the beach, the sun is almost set. You know? So then I find out that people that took the train to the beach arrived quicker. I thought, let me go in my own car in my own comfort, but it ended up working the other way out. So in that case, it's a disappointment. I expected to arrive at the beach in the comfort of my own car, but it didn't happen. Now, if I accept, you know what, so be it. I can go to the beach tomorrow too, then it's fine. Then I've processed it, then it's over. But if I refuse to accept that me getting in that car to go to the beach ended up me not being able to enjoy the sunset of the beach and the warm hours, if I refuse to accept that that happened and refuse to process that, now that becomes regret. So regret is resistance. Resist to accept the consequence of today. Another example. Let's say a woman decides to sees a guy and she likes a guy. She ends up talking to the guy, and well, they end up dating, moving in together, marrying, you name it. Then, after 5 years of marriage, having one child together, suddenly she realizes that, you know what, this thing of being married is not what I expect it to be. I'm okay having this baby, but I'm not okay having responsibilities for the baby. Because here's the thing, when she saw the guy 6 years ago, she had her expectation of how a sexual relationship should be, how she was raised. And because that guy matched her expectation, she held on to the guy. She made a move. She was interested. But now her expectations proven to be false. Being married isn't always about you being praised and pampered. Being married, especially when a child is involved, means invest in the community. And here's the thing. If you get with someone, a consensual adult, in a sexual relationship, well, you can leave with excuses. It happens all the time. But if you became a parent because your wife or girlfriend had the baby, or you're the woman, you got the baby, you can't just cancel the child because I don't want to deal with it. No community is going to accept that. So now this woman who married this guy and had the baby with him, she's fine with the baby. She loves having this little human being depending on her, but she doesn't want to deal with the fact that the community expects investment from her. So now, instead of facing her disappointment by realizing, you know what, my expectations were not correct, instead of facing that, she now begins to resist, and this is regret. Eventually she regrets becoming a mother. She regrets having children. She regrets marrying her husband, and now she begins to cheat on her husband. Now she begins to blame everyone else for how she feels, what she goes through. But the thing is, when you look at her situation was not even that bad. She was a married woman, a wife. She was a wife and a mother. She was taken care of. Why was she upset with the outcome? Why? Because she had this fantasy that's all about her being pampered. Now not fantasy, she had a fairy tale of being pampered 24/7. Where did this fairy tale come from? Well, it came from the movies she's been watching while growing up. Well, she has to face reality as an adult in sexual relationships, whether it's in a marriage covenant or not. You can't expect to always be pampered. That's not how it goes. But if she refuses to face this, she ends into regret. Regret is persistent resistance against the consequences of today. So regret is similar to resentment. The difference is with resentment is an outcome that you haven't chosen that you now have to deal with. With regret, it's an outcome you have chosen that you now don't want to deal with. So that's the difference. Look, a criminal who's been committing fraud here and there will be resentful when they are in prison, because they have their reasons why it was okay for them to commit fraud. Now, he may regret being caught. He may regret not being more cautious of being caught. But if he insisted on being this criminal, he have resentment was being put in prison. But regret only relates to being caught over here. But if someone decided to join a club and later they realized that, man, this is not what I expected it to be, and they refuse to deal with the outcome, now it's regret. Now, regret and resentment are similar. In both cases, someone refuses to embrace and accept the consequences of today. Not to get things wrong over here. Some consequences are not okay. For example, if you find out that your spouse has been lying to you and cheating on you, that's an outcome you should not condone. However, you need to accept on a practical level that that is the outcome. You can't wish away the infidelity of your spouse. It doesn't matter how angry or resentful you become, that's the outcome. You need to find a way to process and deal with it. Now, it's one thing to have children having a temper because they don't want to deal with outcomes in life. That's one thing. Because for children it can be stressful to have sudden bad outcomes to deal with, absolutely. But it's a whole nother thing when an adult, a grown human being, operates this way. But let me reveal something to you. Most adults out there operate in some type of resentment or regret. It's just that openly admitting regret and resentment is taboo. Why? Because it doesn't add up. Look, if you got sexually involved with someone and it ended up being a disaster, you can just face yourself and leave the situation. If you regret getting involved with an individual, people may tolerate it. Even though people tell you, but weren't you the one who openly went into it, ignored the red flags? But anyway, people can tolerate it. But if you have children and now you regret having children, community doesn't want to hear it because those children had no choice but to be born. Okay? And now the children have to be traumatized because you never wanted them, whatever. No. They are here, you deal with them. Because when you were born, the community had to deal with you being born. So why is it now that children are born, now you want to play the victim? No. That's not how it goes. So regret concerning parenthood is something that people want to hear about, and for the right reason. Because this is the thing. If you begin to give in to people's regret, you're actually giving them an excuse to be neglectful. Forget about the situation about parents regretting having children, all of that. That's an extreme example. Just look at regret in general. Regret comes down to someone refusing to be accountable and responsible in the present. Look, if 5 years ago you were living in a neighborhood and you had a great time over there, okay, that's 5 years ago. Today, there are refugees living in your neighborhood. Today, there's a high crime rate. Today, there are bad stuff happening in your neighborhood. So today, you have to face what's going on today. Yes, you have to reflect on the past to figure out how did this came into being and how can we learn from it so that we can do better. But you cannot linger in the past, saying, oh my God, I wish I never moved to this place. Because look what I am now. Regret is resistance towards reality. That's what it is. Look, if you were lied to by some scam artist or some con artist and now you have regret, okay, people can understand that. But even then, if the scam or the con was so obvious, we're going to think about, hold on a minute. Yes, you were conned. Yes, you were scammed into this. But it should have been obvious to you that something was off with the story. Look, if you go to Amazon and you look for a MacBook and you see a MacBook for sale for $20 and you pay the $20 and you never get the MacBook and now you have regret and now you're upset, even if you file a police report, the police is going to tell you, sir, how can you seriously think an expensive MacBook can be for sale for $20? You should have known something was off with that advertisement on Amazon. In that case, we can realize there's something's off with you, that you believe that you don't even know there's something is too good to be true. But if you got involved with someone, let's say you married someone, and this individual is always so super kind and nice towards you, love bombed, and now you figure out that they're the opposite, okay, now you've been tricked and caught in that situation. If you regret it then it's different. People can understand that. But people have no patience for regrets that cannot be justified. And here's the thing, a lot of people have regrets because they couldn't get away being neglectful. If someone does not want to contribute to a community in a constructive way, then they should face backlash and they should be banned from that community. But a lot of people, they don't want to deal with anything that happens around them. They just want to be left alone in their little bubble, yet expect the community to function properly so they are left alone. But one day, when they face backlash because people are calling them out on it, now they regret. What do they regret? They regret being caught and have to deal with consequences. And now they will play the victim as if the community is harassing them and bothering them. No, the community is entitled to require tribute from you when you're in the community. This does not mean the community can expect whatever they want unconditionally. Okay? The community has obligations towards you, and you have obligations to the community. There must be a balance. And every human being should want this balance between them and the community. But if someone is not even interested in any balance, just want to escape all the time, and now the community gets upset with them, that's 100% correct. Look, regret is a topic that is quite sensitive because it depends on what you regret. But I'll rather explain to you, disappointment is common, okay? Admit when you're disappointed. Don't just walk with it and be ashamed of it. Admit you're disappointed. Disappointing simply means that you had an expectation of how an outcome would be, and now your expectation ends up being different. Now, disappointment doesn't have to be a bad thing. Disappointment feels horrible, okay? And because it feels horrible, it can even harm you if it lingers. So when disappointment lingers, it can actually harm your body because that horrible feeling of being upset, it can harm you. That's true. So admit when you're disappointed. But also admit that, okay, you've admitted you've been disappointed. What now? What did you expect? And what didn't happen? And why did you expect it? If what you expected was correct, that means the situation is just off. You can just leave the situation. But if what you expected didn't add up, now you need to look in the mirror and admit that something in you has to be addressed. But this thing about worldly people, looking in the mirror and face themselves as something that's too painful for them to do, they don't want to do that. So when worldlings feel disappointed, what they often do, there are two things they do. Either they just ghost everyone or the whole environment, so they don't even want to take any responsibility for their part, or they end up looking for someone to ventilate their anger upon. So, disappointment has to be recognized. However, disappointment refers to you being frustrated concerning the outcome. The disappointment doesn't have to relate directly to people around you. If the people around you had the proper expectation what's going on, and then and you feel disappointed, means there was you that expected something. Disappointment has to do with you. Disappointment doesn't have to do with people around you. Okay, if you expect someone to behave a certain way, and they should behave that way, and they don't, it just means that the other individual is just dysfunctional or defective. Okay, but still, that type of disappointment is healthy because it makes you realize, okay, reality is not the way I expect it to be. As simple as that. But if you just expect to be gratified, but there's no context of why you should be gratified, now you need to think, hold on a minute, this is a bit narcissistic. What's going on here? So, what I'm teaching you here is to watch out when society uses regret to blackmail you. For example, let's say it's a presidential election and many people voted for Donald Trump. I'm just using an example of the United States now. Let's say many people voted for Donald Trump. Okay? Let's say you're in a state, let's say you're, for example, you're in Florida, for example, and many people there voted for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump became president. Okay? I'm using that as an example. Why did they vote for Donald Trump? Because they had an expectation that if he gets into office, he will get certain outcomes. There are certain outcomes they're craving, and they perceive Trump as the one that will deliver the outcomes they long for. Now, Donald Trump takes office. And when he takes office, people now are waiting for the outcomes to happen. But the outcomes don't happen. Now they figure out Donald Trump was just hoaxing them like any other politician was. Now, this disappointment is felt by the public. It is felt. However, the public has to realize, hold on a minute, this man wasn't even a politician. He never held office anywhere. He was not even politically active. And he used to be a discredited businessman. How the heck did we believe anything he was saying? So the public has to realize, you know what, if Donald Trump scammed us, it is because somewhere we wanted to be lied to. So instead of the public facing themselves, realizing, you know what, we were desperate for an easy escape, we need to change and actually work on our issues, what does the public do? Now, they develop a cult-like attitude towards this figure, Donald Trump. They develop this God complex when it comes to Donald Trump. Not that Donald Trump does is wrong. And then you have another portion of the population seeing this, and they go into resistance. They say, hey, what the heck? Now you have two camps in that community. One that worship Donald Trump, and those that seek desperately to get rid of him. And what happens now? You are living in that community. And you were never into Donald Trump because you saw it from the start. Now, the public has a civil conflict. The public has a conflict. You have a portion of the population that's worshiping Donald Trump as a coping mechanism, and you have another portion that's upset about it. Now, both camps want an outlet. So then you are walking around. And then the people that worship Donald Trump, they want tribute from you to ease their resentment. But the other crowd now also wants you to stand up against the Trump worshippers. So now you're caught in a fire. Because if you get along with the Trump supporters, eventually you know that it will end up bad with you. because it's a crowd of resentful people. If now you get along with, but if you get along with the opposers, it's the same thing, because the opposers don't offer any solutions either. Now, a believer would realize, you know what? Let me be flexible about the situation. Let me admit that Donald Trump promised a lot of stuff, but unfortunately didn't deliver it. But let me also admit, you know what? We need to look further. That's how a believer would deal with it, in a flexible way. But most worldly people just want to say, leave me alone. I don't want to hear about this Donald Trump nor any of your issues. Just leave me alone. And when you do that, both people feel hurt and they attack you. So you have to be wise in daily life in how you deal with conflict in your community. If you have this mindset, man, it's none of my business, didn't happen to me, want to stay in my bubble, then you are most likely to be victimized by the crowd. But if you admit that there is conflict in the community, and you, instead of picking sides directly, you deal with it in a flexible way, now you end up escaping being trapped. And that's what you need to learn as believers. Learn to be flexible when you deal with pressure from the community. Because here's what it comes down to. In the example I've given you, both the Trump supporters as well as those who resist Trump, they're actually both operating in regret. They both are. So both of them want to escape the consequence of the present, namely that Donald Trump is long gone and he didn't accomplish what he said he would accomplish. So because both groups want to escape, they now want someone to be charged with their grudges. Because anytime someone lingers in regret, they develop a grudge. Long-term regret is a grudge that they hold against someone. Now, when the grudge becomes heavy, they want to unload the grudge on someone else. Either by triggering someone to take their side or by escalating someone for not making things easy for them. So understand this. Anytime the public, I'm not talking about single individuals here. Anytime the public lingers around in regret, it will end up bad. It will turn into blackmail. Now, as I already explained, there's a difference between blackmail and coercion. Coercion in itself is not wrong. Children have to be coerced to go to sleep on time and to eat the right food and not to run around the street, all of that. So coercion is not bad in itself. But when does coercion go wrong? Coercion goes wrong when people expect things from you don't add up. If people coerce you to wear a seatbelt in your car and to not drink before you go behind the steering wheel, that's proper. Because if you don't wear a seatbelt, you are in danger in traffic, and nobody wants that. And if you drink alcohol before you go driving, you become a danger to yourself and other people. So people coercing you not to drink before you go behind it, don't drink alcohol before you go behind the steering wheel, that's a good thing. So coercion in this situation is good. Or if you are addicted to drugs and people coerce you to go into therapy and to go into a rehab, that's good. Coercion is not wrong. But coercion becomes bad the moment people force you to participate in something they can't account for. People can force you to participate in an actual solution. that works out for the community. People can force you to face reality and look for help. All that is good. People can force you to either participate in the community and be part of it, or to leave the community. People can force you. And on the other hand, you can force other people to, if the goal is proper and you can account for it. But the moment people force you to participate, be part of something that they cannot justify, that's blackmail. And what I'm putting out here is that when people do not want to process their disappointments, and they develop this thing called regret, if they don't give up this regret state quickly, it becomes a crutch. And when a whole bunch of people, a whole crowd of people has a grudge, it will automatically lead to blackmail. As simple as that. That's how it goes. So, what do we do as believers? As believers, we face our own expectations to see whether our expectations are proper or not. We need to do what they call the inner work by facing our own expectations to see, do these things I want or expect, are they even proper? Are they even worthwhile? And by doing that, we are preventing this experience called disappointment. And even if we are disappointed as believers, we need to recognize, okay, there was something I was expecting or something I was aiming for that wasn't the best option. What is it? Which course should I take now? You accept you accept the fact of the situation for what it is. And then you find a way to deal with the outcome in the present. But if we begin to resist the current outcomes and begin to fight them, it's then that we develop grudges. It's then that we become trapped in negativity. Look, if someone else if someone else behaved badly, or if someone else is neglectful and you're dealing with a bad outcome because of their neglect, of course you're upset. But you need to accept at some point, you know what? This individual is neglectful, and their past actions cannot be undone. So the consequences of their neglect are here. So what I'm going to do about the consequences? Yes, I'm upset that they were neglectful, but still, I need to deal with the outcome in the present. And that's where, in the world, most of the problems come from. People don't want to deal with outcomes in the present that's not in harmony with their ease. They want to escape. That's why, remember this, worldlings have grudges. Worldlings have grudges, I'm telling you. Why? Because you can't be fleeing all the time and not face a situation where you can't flee from. And once worldlings can't flee or escape from a situation, and you have no choice but to face it, that disappointment that you can't flee will turn into bitter regret. And understand this, someone that's into escaping, they may even use you as an escape. But sooner or later, they'll figure out that using you as an escape is not going to solve anything. And they will regret. But they will blame this regret on you. But it was them that clinged onto you as an escape. So instead of them accepting this part of themselves, they want to leave it all on you. Now they want to ghost you. And now they jump on someone else and do the exact same thing. They start to go on and on and on. So pay attention to the climate around you. The moment you notice that around you there is a climate of regret, when you notice that the public, remember I say, I'm not saying individual people, the moment you notice individual people by themselves, the moment you notice that the public around you has this climate of regret, then begin to take steps to be away from that environment. If you live somewhere, begin to go on trips to other towns on a regular basis. Or if it's at work, then just do your job and leave work as soon as possible. Or begin to work less hours. Or look for another job. Whenever a climate of regret emerges, then you know that sooner or later there's going to be blackmail conducted on everyone. That's how simple it is. And truth being told, society itself cannot function without blackmail. So, that is why we as believers are commanded not to be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Why? Because unbelievers in general have grudges. The grudges doesn't have to be intense ones, but they do have grudges. And those grudges are the result of wanting to escape, but they can't. So the only way society remains functional is when everyone is blackmailed into participating in the regret. Regret is a big part of society. However, you're not allowed to admit the regret, but you are compelled to act out the regret. Okay. This is something many of us don't want to face, but we have to face it. In daily life, you will encounter blackmail from the crowd. And in the current crisis that goes on in the world, people are blackmailing you to take the quick fix. Why? Because they took the quick fix, sometimes even multiple times, and the quick fix didn't work. So now instead of them wanting to face the fact that the quick fix didn't work and that they fell for it so hard, now they want you to participate in their regret. Because you not participating in their regret makes them feel bad. So now they're going to blackmail you for them to be at ease. So look, if you realize right now that there was a climate of regret around you, then stay calm and work your way out of it. But if you notice a climate of regret is emerging in the community, I'm not telling you to be a coward and just run away, but I'm telling you, keep your distance from the public space of that community. Because once the regret lingers, it's going to be acted out sooner or later. So that was what I had to share in this live. Normally, I would give some time for you to answer some questions, but because I have to go now, I will leave your questions in the comment section when the live stream is processed. Thank you all for being here. Keep on agreeing with Christ. Be at peace, and I'll see you next time.